What's going on, everyone? This is DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com. Roles reversed today a little bit. My name is Scott Geirman, senior staff writer, Dodger Blue 1958. I'm here with Jeff Spiegel, one of our good friends here at Dodger Blue. How are we feeling today?
I'm good. This is fun letting you take the wheel and I get to sit in this chair.
It's probably, take a deep breath for, breath of fresh air, just kind of settle back in, bring out the hoodie a little bit. It's good stuff, though. We got a great topic today. We're talking about something super important, something, a really cool experience for you, and something I'm really excited to get to talk to you about, and something for you to share, a great deal of insight. A very good experience that you got to have the opportunity to have working on a documentary on former Dodger Yasiel Puig, Dirty Moneyball, Cuban Ransom Stars. It aired on May 29th on TNT. And this is something that got, a lot of notoriety early on, but it really detailed the story and, the harrowing journey that Yasiel Puig had on his journey to Major League Baseball. I want to hear a little bit about it, Jeff.
Yeah. So it's kind of a crazy story. So if you've seen it, you'll know that I appear in this documentary, my face, my voice a few different times. But about 18 months ago, I get a DM on artist formerly known as Twitter saying, "Hey, we're doing this documentary on Yasiel Puig. Found, DodgerHeads, love what you guys are doing. Would you be interested in being a part of it?" And of course, my initial reaction was like, is this real? Like, what kind of deal or thing are we finding out? But look into it. It's legit. There's a series called Rich and Shameless that second season just aired. This was a part of the second season on TNT. It's going to be on HBO. And so about 15 months ago, last March, I got flown down to Los Angeles along with Jeff Snyder, who some people will know from the Dodger world. And we were recorded for basically a full day talking about Puig from the baseball side of things. And it was a crazy experience. It was supposed to air about a year ago. And then for whatever reason, it didn't. And I kept hearing, well, maybe later, and then nothing. And then all of a sudden, like 3 weeks ago, I'm just scrolling through Twitter. I see an ad for Rich and Shameless season 2. I was like, wait a minute. I think this was supposed to be a part of season 2. And sure enough, they're like, hey, in 5 days, this thing is airing. So it was after the Western Conference Finals on TNT. And crazy. I've never been on TV or in a documentary before. So fun thing to be a part of.
Yeah, and I've seen a ton of positive feedback around social media stuff on Twitter and honestly a couple things on Facebook here and there when I do log in. But what I've seen is that a lot of people are very we knew that Puig had a journey coming over to Major League Baseball, but I don't think people really knew. Like there's a level of knowing, and then there's a level of sometimes life and death with a lot of these stories and stuff. It's kind of eye-popping things. What are some things really? I just, from what you learned, I know you probably got a little bit more in depth than you probably ever thought. Was there anything in there that that really made you just go, wow?
Well, it was fun for me to watch this with my wife, who's a Dodgers fan. Obviously, she's stuck with me, so she's stuck following this. And I was a big Puig guy when he was on the Dodgers. And so even she's sitting there and could not believe the story of how he got there and the drug smugglers and the cartels and kidnapping. And he's basically being held hostage. And so it's been an interesting process on that front because it's part of a series called Rich and Shameless. The producer of this documentary did not pick that title. And so there was some buzz about how Puig was pissed off. And look, if somebody told you they were going to make a documentary about your life and it was going to be part of a series called Rich and Shameless, I think your default would be anger.
A little bit.
Totally. But I think what people found, and I haven't heard Puig talk since the documentary aired, so I wonder if he's changed his tune. But I think what people found is, despite the name of the series this is a part of, the goal in part was to present Puig as like a complicated person. And I think for most people, you're going to come away from this with more empathy for Yasiel Puig than you are disappointment. It's not to say he's never made mistakes, and some of them are massive. And if you don't want to like the guy afterwards, you're more than welcome to. But I think at least it gives you a sense of like the trauma that he went through and the age that he was going through it. And then having money thrown into the mix and being thrust into a situation with the Dodgers that wasn't necessarily an environment that was built for Yasiel Puig personally as the human being to be successful. I think you walk away thinking, man, this guy's had a tough life, and that doesn't excuse all the decisions he's made, but it gives you a little bit more empathy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when they see these types of documentaries, you have to feel one way or another. You should, it's an attempt to try to, show them in the absolute most positive light. But people forget that people are imperfect, and a lot of these times, Yasiel Puig, just like you said, he was, brought over. He came over from Cuba, signed. He was just injected straight into sold out crowds, and Dodger Stadium was the absolute lifeblood of that team. For a lot of it, it was a lot of my, me growing up. I remember watching him, and he was the most polarizing figure. I actually know the person who bought his Grand Slam bat, way back when. So it's just that type of atmosphere, that type of energy that he brought. Solidified a lot for me as a Dodger fan during that, the early 2010 era going through it. So I remember hearing about extra security when they would go down to Miami, stuff like that. But it's a documentary like this. It's like now that we're, years removed from Puig being the Dodgers, affiliated with the organization, it's now that a story gets to, be told so in depth about him. For me, as a Dodger fan, as a fan of baseball, and someone who I really am interested in the story of Yasiel Puig, is something that I will absolutely tune into. I'm going to take a look at this. Jeff, I know we heard a ton of pushback about this. Is there anything that just super surprising that stood out to you on that end?
I mean, I think like going through the process of being in it is a really interesting process because the first step was we had a Zoom call with the producer, and they kind of asked us a bunch of questions, basically because they wanted to hear our answers. And then when we got down to LA on camera, they basically asked us the exact same questions, and we were giving, not the exact same answers because it had been a month or two, but there would be these moments where they'd say, "Hey, can you say that differently? Or can you say that more like this? Or can you even say this specific line?" And I think at first it was like, well, what is this process really about? And then you realize like, this is just how stuff gets made. If you're trying to trim a documentary down to like 42 minutes, like you can't have me giving you a 90-second answer to a question that you need like a 12-second soundbite to. And so I think that was a fun process for me. I think the producers did 100% right by us. There was nothing in there where I was like, oh man, they twisted my words, which I think there were some people that was a fear of theirs was, oh, I'm going to be made to seem like somebody or believe something or say something that I don't actually mean.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. So that piece was really fun. And at the end of the day, like for me, as somebody who loved Puig, the baseball player, as far as guys on the field, take all the off the field stuff away, might be my favorite Dodger of all time, just because of the energy, the excitement, the way he played the game. But to be a part of a documentary that explores a little bit some of the complicated nature of it, was really fun and exciting and nerve-wracking at points because I was like, man, I don't know how this is going to play out. But I think when I got to see the finished product, I was able to take a deep breath and be like, yeah, I'm really excited that I got to be a part of this. I don't think it's going to go on and win any, Oscars or anything like that. But I think they do a great job of telling a really compelling story about Yasiel Puig. And it was just a fun experience for me.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I'm super excited to take a look at it. And we all know the type of impact that Yasiel Puig had with the Dodgers, and the impact he had on the fans. And Vin Scully famously dubbed him the Wild Horse.
Yeah,
and it kind of encapsulates exactly who he was. On the field, he played with reckless abandonment and just like a pure. You could see, like it's kind of ingrained in my memory. Him sliding into third base, standing up, and you can see that aggression that excitement, and he's holding it in. And at times he doesn't let out a roar, but he lets it out just in his gestures. And it's just those type of memories for me. I'm with you. He's one of those players that it's hard for me. I think it's because he was outside of the Dodgers organization when a lot of his, bumps happen, is why I think of him, but nothing on the field. And it's a documentary like this that's important, because these type of stories, it's not just these guys just don't, have someone get, smuggle them over the United States and then that's it. There's a roller coaster, and just like we said, life and death stuff that goes on. So for me, I'm envious that you got to be a part of this type of thing. And I'm sure Dodger fans and people that tune in to watch this, same type of stuff, watch this documentary and understand that this is a story of someone who, playing on the field, played with their heart, played with everything they got, and they gave it literally everything they had to get over here. So I appreciate you telling a ton about this, man, because it's something that not everybody gets an opportunity to be a part of. And I hope it doesn't just fly under the radar,
Yeah, absolutely. And my last thing I would say is if somebody really dislikes Puig because of the things that he's been accused of, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong.
Sure.
And if somebody loves Puig and just is like they can separate the on-field versus the off-field, then they're just going to love Puig. Again, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I think what this documentary will force you to reckon with is here's a guy who basically went through they can't even get into all this stuff that he went through, but failed attempts to get over here. He gets smuggled. There's drug cartels. There's guns. He's hostage. He's kidnapped. He's in a hotel room for 40 days. And then he gets dropped in America, signs a $42 million contract, and gets thrust into the limelight. Not only that, though, like he's got a manager like Don Mattingly, who there's quotes from Don Mattingly in this documentary that I'll just say are not awesome for Don Mattingly in the way that he comes across. And so at the very least, regardless of where you stand on Puig, I think it just gives you a fuller perspective of like maybe helping you understand why he was the way that he was, some of the awesome parts and some of the really, really hard parts that, to be fair, they don't even really get into in the documentary. So I encourage everybody to check it out. If you just search Rich and Shameless Yasiel Puig or Dirty Moneyball Yasiel Puig, it's on TNT. It's on the TNT app. Easy to find there. I also think it's going to live on HBO Max or whatever that app is called at some point. So definitely encourage you to check it out. It's a good watch, 45 minutes, and apologies that you've got to sort of stare through me a little bit as you do.
No, and I mean, I'm gonna definitely check it out. And like it's, I can't help but think about the the trade in 2019 when the Dodgers finally, they're late 2018, sorry, when they traded him away to the Cincinnati Reds, and it felt like a true end of an era, like it did for that time. I mean, it ultimately led to the trade of Mookie Betts and all that because of all those prospects involved there. But a lot of fun memories there, and definitely a documentary about Yasiel Puig to get more of the insight of how things can, if the player can be as perfect as they can be, but if the scenario is not all put together to welcome or handle someone like that, things can go south no matter what. But yeah, so Jeff, appreciate you coming on. Thanks for telling a little bit of your story. Encourage everybody to go check that documentary out. Rich and Shameless. It's this, the story about Yasiel Puig, Dirty Moneyball, Cuba's Ransom Stars. Thanks everybody tuning in. Make sure you hit the like notification bell, leave a comment, let us know. If you're going to tune into that, let us know your comments on it. I appreciate it. Everybody take care.